Hey guys, welcome to another episode. You are joining me in session, but we're not going to talk about the session just yet. You're going to have to wait for that in the next video. For now, I want to talk to you guys about the previous session I did at African Hills. It was previously known as Academy Lakes. In fact, I've done a few sessions there, so if you haven't checked those videos out, I'll put the links in the description. I didn't have any expectations to fish African Hills or Academy Lakes again. Because I eventually caught a fish there and I'd beaten the blank and I thought I was done. But I was chatting to one of the fellow Stealth ambassadors, Zahir, and we've been planning to do a session together for quite some time. Unfortunately, it just never materialized. A few months earlier, we were chatting and we decided that we're definitely going to do this session. And while we were talking about venues, the topic of African Hills came up and we decided that we'll give it a go. And mind you, I actually haven't caught a carp at the top lake, so I thought it was a perfect opportunity to maybe give it another go and hopefully, get onto some of the stunning carp that the top lake has to offer. So that session was eventually booked, and the weeks leading up to that session, Zahir had already planned a session with some of his friends a few weeks prior, and he had phoned me to tell me that he had a swim that was available and if we wanted to join him. So I obviously jumped at the opportunity and I thought it would give us some pre-planning for the session that was to come. So I arrived at the venue roughly around 2 o'clock the Friday afternoon. I immediately went down to the water and just started observing to see if there were any signs of fish showing. Unfortunately, the water was quite calm. I was on swim 1 and I didn't take my boat with me, so it was difficult to really pick out exactly where I was going to be fishing. And obviously with fish not showing, it didn't really make my job any easier. So generally when I'm faced with those situations, I'd put a lead on and I'll cast about just to feel certain areas that I prefer fishing on. I generally prefer fishing on more gravel, more hard spots. There's a lot of guys that fish the total opposite. I've been successful in picking up fish in silt, but for the most part I would look for a hard spot to fish in, especially when I haven't seen fish showing. And that's exactly what I did. I threw a couple of spoms out and I decided to go with the Crazy Berry pop-up on a Ronnie rig. Again, because I wasn't completely confident in where I was fishing, and it was really me just testing the waters to see what would happen for the night. Unfortunately, it wasn't in my favor. There wasn't any runs on my side, but I did manage to meet a few new faces, including the twins that you guys might be familiar with. Their pictures have been circulating social media for quite some time with some stunning fish that they've caught over time. And those twins are Hassan and Hussein, also two guys that love the Stealth range. They often use the tigers and some of the baits wherever they go. So it was really nice meeting them. And we were just having quite a nice social that Friday evening. In fact, one of the twins got onto a fish, but whilst bringing the fish in, he had lost it. So that already gave us motivation because we knew that fish are biting, it's just a matter of time and hopefully we would get onto something. That night, unfortunately, was quiet. I decided to get some rest quite early on in the evening. And by the time I woke up in the morning, I was told that there were 2 fish that were caught early hours of that morning. Zahir was one of the guys that got onto a fish, as well as one of the twins, who caught a really beautiful mirror. Look, it wasn't massive, but it was an amazing mirror to see at the top lake. And I think just the fact that they could break the blank and get onto a fish was a good sign for us. Waking up that Saturday morning and getting ready for the day's fishing, we were hopeful because 2 fish had come out with the one that was lost. There was 3 runs for that evening. So the guys were really amped, really looking forward to that evening or that day of fishing. And same here. I wasn't too confident because, like I said, day before, didn't see any fish showing. So I was really hopeful that things would change. I would see where the fish are and hopefully then, get a run. The morning was absolutely quiet. So she cooked us up with a good breakfast. And I think once the stomachs were full, the mind was a little bit focused. So we were watching the water, and I think just after lunch, I saw a fish show probably about 1 meter from the dam wall. Like I said, I was fishing swim 1. So there was an overhanging tree, and just about 1 meter away from it, I saw a fish show. And the minute I saw that, I brought my lines in because I knew that was where I needed to be. So the tactics changed. I threw out a couple of spoms over the top, and then I went with a pineapple tiger tipped with a yellow maize, and I threw that out onto the spot. Within a couple of hours, probably even less, I was eventually onto one of the commons in the lake. I was absolutely overjoyed because, like I said, I've never caught a carp on the lake on a previous session. I was plagued with catfish prior to that, so getting onto that carp was such a morale booster. It helped me because I finally caught a fish at a African Hills or Academy's top lake. So I was chuffed. I was ready to go home. But in actual fact, in all honesty, I know that the lake holds quite a few gems. So there was a bit of disappointment, to be honest. And there was still time. So we knew that hopefully by the rest of the evening, we'd get our lines back in and, hopefully get onto some of the bigger fish. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. That common was the last fish that I caught for the day. And that Saturday night was quiet again. But I think it was quite nice, really, just to have fun, just chill around, meet new people. And I think having the right company is quite important too. Even if you're not catching fish, or if you're not catching the fish that you'd like to catch, just having the right company makes the trip all the worthwhile. And just like that, a couple of weeks had gone by. It was time for us to hit Top Lake once again. This time, Zahir and I were fishing swim 4. And to our surprise, the lake was absolutely quiet. There was nobody else fishing on the other swims, so it was just the two of us, and one of Zahir's friends had come in the Saturday to fish on swim 3. So getting into Friday, I got to the dam quite late. It was just before sunset, so this time I took my boat and I wanted to get the boat up and running and just make sure that we could get our lines in before the sun had set so we could find some spots. Zahir and I went into the swim, and on the opposite bank against the reeds, we actually saw 2 amazing koi swimming around. And when we saw that, we knew we were in the right place. We knew that that night we were going to see some fish on the bank. And that's exactly what happened. I didn't even have my camera set up and ready to film. And before you knew it, Zahir's rod was off. I was still getting the camera up and running and trying to record him, and whilst recording, he was onto his second fish. So that was quite a pretty sight. We were onto the rods fighting fish, and unfortunately, both of us landed catfish.
No, man. Oh. Plagued by cats.
To do all of that work, all of that effort to get lines out, only to bring out catfish at the end. But I guess we were still hopeful. So he had got his lines back out, and eventually the water was calm, it was quiet, and we thought that, we'd be in for a good night of fishing. Little did we know, we would be plagued by catfish again. It was the 3rd catfish that came out of Zahir's line, and I could tell that this guy was not impressed. Me, on the other hand, quiet rods, waiting for even a bite from a catfish, until 4 o'clock that morning. I had such a screaming take, got out of the bivvy in a dwell, brought that line in, and yep, once again, another catfish. So it was really frustrating. It was a frustrating Friday night worth of fishing. To be honest with you, by the Saturday, I was a bit demotivated. I felt we weren't going to get into any carp. But of course, we persevered. We went out looking for spots, really trying to find where the carp would be. Eventually, Zahir stuck to some of the spots that he was confident in, and he actually spotted, earlier that morning, he spotted a carp show very close to an area that I was fishing. And he suggested that I drop a line in that spot. And of course, nothing had happened the previous night with me, so I'd be stupid not to take that advice. And I went across, dropped my lines in, and as we got ready for the evening of fishing. Zahir had a run in that afternoon, and that fish took him straight into the reeds. So we were onto the boat, got to the spot, but unfortunately it was a hook pull. We are confident that that was a carp that did that, very different to the fish that he had caught previously, which were cats. So it was quite disappointing, from catfish to not catching. It was really messing up the spirits. But the night wasn't over, the weekend wasn't over, so we did what we do best, get those lines in and just get ready for the night's fishing. At around 3:30 that morning, something happened that I did not expect. I had an absolute screamer of a take on the spot that Zahir had shown me. And the minute I was onto that rod, I knew this was not a catfish. In fact, as the fish was getting closer to the swim, Zaire spotted that it was a mirror. Now, the minute he mentioned that, I was weak in my knees because I have not caught a decent mirror in years. For some reason, I was just not able to catch a mirror of above 2 or 3 kilos. So to hear that it was a mirror on the other end just put fear in me. You know, at that moment you're like, I hope I don't lose it. I hope it's not a hook pull. You know, you hear stories of guys that have lost fish as they were about to net it. So all these thoughts were going through my mind, and I was just trying to stay focused and get that fish. And eventually, after all the tension, all the sweat, all the tears, eventually that fish was at the back of the net. And what an amazing fish.
Okay, let's go and see what we've got in the sling. Go. So I wasn't expecting to catch a mirror PB. It's quite a big jump from my initial PB, which was only like 2 kilos. For some weird reason, I just haven't been able to catch a decent mirror in all of my fishing. But today, that has finally changed. And if she can just cooperate with me, you guys can see it too. One of the most beautiful mirrors to break a PB with, at 13.5 kilos. My session has definitely been made. And because it's a PB, you know what that means. Let's get that up there. Okay. Dustin, for your mother PB, 13.5 kilos. Very cool. Oh yes. You drowning me, bro. What an amazing feeling. Couldn't have done it without the stealth range combo that I just attempted yesterday. Sweet corn boilie, tipped with a Twizzler pop-up. This is the reward. All worth it. Okay. Okay, girl. Thank you.
Catching a new mirror PB was absolutely amazing for me. I cannot explain to you the joy that it gave me. I think even up until this moment, just thinking about it makes me happy. Catching the fish, which I later learned that is actually the biggest mirror of African Hills Top Lake. I didn't catch it at its biggest weight. The last post that I seen, the fish was caught at 13.9 kilos, and I think that was back in Jan 2022. I caught it at 13.5, but nevertheless, I was completely happy that I could catch one of the characters of the Top Lake, which in fact has actually been caught quite a lot in the space of a few months, you know, from when I fished it. So it was really nice to capture one of the special fish of the lake. And I guarantee you that after catching that fish, I might actually book a few more sessions there. But unfortunately, that's all that I have to share with you on this session. Hopefully what you see behind you here, hopefully there will be another video coming soon where you'll see a capture or two from this particular venue, but let me not give you any of that away just yet. For now, it's a goodbye from me, and we will see you on the next adventure.